We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. If you want to look at the slides and listen to some music, we should be getting started about 12:32. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for another wonderful Hub 101. So excited to have you. Welcome back for another Austin Coming Together, Austin Community Hub 101. New year, new Hub 101, super pumped to have you. As always, I'm Janelle Martin.
I'm Imani Moore.
As some of you may be familiar with ACT already, ACT is a backbone agency for collective impact, serving a network of nonprofit, faith-based, public, and private member organizations. As part of ACT, the Austin Community Hub is a safe space to intentionally and thoughtfully engage disconnected families and individuals in collaboration with our member base to securely connect community members to holistic services such as career counseling, housing, continuing education, and much, much more.
Yes. Part of these services include informing our community members about the different organizations we work with and the great resources and programs they have to offer. So we created Hub 101s.
This month, we have the opportunity to connect with the Center for Disability and Elder Law, otherwise known as CDEL. CDEL's mission is to provide legal services to low-income seniors and persons with disabilities who reside in Chicago and suburban Cook County. Today, we're going to learn all about CDEL's Housing Prevention Program, HPP, which provides legal assistance to cost-burdened seniors, senior homeowners with succession planning, helping them to ensure that they're going to age in place, so stay in their home. HPP may also be able to assist with home ownership issues, including title correction, property tax matters, foreclosure, and building code violation defense. Austin homeowners will also learn the importance of succession planning for their homes through the transfer on death instrument, otherwise known as a TODI.
Great. We will begin with a presentation from one of CDEL's incredible staff attorneys, Chandler Wright, and then we will have a chance for any questions after the presentation. Please feel free to put your questions in the live chat, and we'll be sure to address them then. With that, Chandler, welcome. The floor is yours.
Hello. I am so excited to be here. I am going to share my screen and then we can get started. All right. Okay, are we in full screen?
You are good. Go for it.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Chandler Wright, and I am a staff attorney with the Center for Disability and Elder Law. I have my contact information on this slide. I also think I have it on the last slide, and it'll be in the chat. So make sure to jot that down at some point. Before I get started, I do want to give a quick note that the purpose of today's presentation is just informational. Nothing should be construed as legal advice for any individual matter. Everyone's issues are very deeply personal and might require, different levels of service. So, there's not a one-size-fits-all legal solution. So I'm going to touch on some really great ones, but do know that you should chat with me directly if you have any questions about a very specific legal matter. All right, so today we're here with Austin Coming Together's Hub 101, and the topic today is property preservation planning. So I am, looking for you homeowners that are looking to preserve your property and different ways to do that. All right, so a little history about CDEL. The Center for Disability and Elder Law is a nonprofit that was founded in 1984. And we were established in response to a study that found, know that a lot of individuals that were living in poverty had a legal problem, and 80% of those individuals were unable to obtain legal representation. So for more than 38 years, CDEL has provided free legal assistance to low and moderate income individuals who are either 60 years of age or older or living with a permanent disability. CDEL's mission statement, I know Janelle touched on this, but just to reiterate, our mission statement is to provide free, quality legal services to low-income seniors and persons with disabilities in Cook County, and to foster a spirit of pro bono service. So we partner with volunteer attorneys all throughout Chicago to provide our clients with high-quality free legal services that they otherwise would not be able to. In terms of our practice areas, today we're going to be focusing on, a subsection of our practice areas, which is definitely our biggest one, and that would be estate and end-of-life planning, which also includes some housing matters. But we do have other practice areas that I want you to be aware of, because if you have a practice area that's listed on the screen, I want you to still reach out. Today we're going to be focusing, a lot about estate planning and property matters, but we do have other practice areas such as adult guardianship, and even simple divorce. We also handle consumer debt matters. So, no criminal matters, but if you have any civil matters that might be listed on the screen or that you think, we might be able to assist with, please reach out. So CDEL has quite a bit of programs. You all are here today with the Housing Preservation Project. And I'm really excited to be chatting with you all about housing preservation and estate planning. But we also have community clinics that operate all throughout Cook County. And our community clinics are great because they allow for us to give legal services to our clients in their communities. So you're not having to come all the way downtown just to access these services. We also have an adult guardianship help desk for those that may be seeking guardianship over an adult with a disability. We also have power of attorney workshops, which would be similar to this, but would be us going into most likely senior homes and places where seniors might gather to draft powers of attorney for them. But today we're here for Housing Preservation Project. So I'm going to be chatting a lot about transfer on death instruments, way to avoid probate, and a lot of things about your home. All right. So let's chat about eligibility. And I do want to give a little caveat here. So our basic eligibility standards are you must be a Cook County resident or an Illinois veteran, and then you must be over the age of 60 or a person living with a permanent disability. We look to serve lower moderate income individuals, and then you have to have a legal issue that's within our area of practice. If you might be viewing this presentation today and you're thinking, I'm not over the age of 60, I don't have a permanent disability, but I would consider myself to be lower moderate income, please stay. This will still be information that is applicable to you. You might not be eligible for our free legal services, but we would be able to refer you to other organizations who might be able to assist, such as Legal Aid Chicago and many of our other partner organizations. So the reason that you're all here today, why is planning for my home so important? And I'm sure you all can, think of reasons why it would be important, but I wanted to start with a few client stories and a few stories, that might be true for your family or families that that are on your block. And I'll kind of touch on, maybe two stories. And, one story that I see far too often, it's not just one client, it's multiple potential clients. I get the, granddaughter is what I'll call her. Granddaughter calls me and is saying, I'm living in this home, and it's been in my home for generations. Grandma lived here, my mom lived here, and now I'm living here, because I'm the rightful heir. And I want to do an estate plan. And when I hear that, I get nervous. I think, well, do you actually own your home? Are you entitled to the home? And far too often I find that they're not. Grandma has since passed away. Mom has since passed away. Now granddaughter is living in grandmother's home, but title has not adequately passed to her. And this is one of those examples where, it might be too late for CDEL to step in. And it might be a time where this individual has to seek a probate attorney to help open up the probate estate to pass title to this property. That also means there could be a lot of other potential heirs. If granddaughter has siblings, if there are other potential heirs from both grandmother and mother, this could be a web of people that might have an interest in this home that, this person has been living there for years and years and years. And unfortunately, this happens far too often. What we're hoping happens more often are client stories, like many of the clients that I'm able to assist. And that would just be a homeowner who owns a home, and they know who they would want to have their home when they pass away, but they just haven't really put that in writing through an instrument such as a transfer on death instrument. I've also helped a lot of clients who are living in a home and their spouse has passed away, and now they've realized my spouse handled a lot of these things. Now I need to handle this for myself and make sure our family home is transferred to the next generation. And so what we typically do is draft that transfer on death instrument to pass title to the next generation. And so you might be thinking, what's the importance of being on title to a property? And it is so important. If you or your potential heirs after your passing are not on title to a property, you or they in the future can't refinance a mortgage to avoid foreclosure. You can't draw from the equity to make repairs or pay back taxes. A lot of times mortgage companies aren't even going to talk to you if you're not on title. You also can't take property tax exemption. So even if there isn't a mortgage and that's not an issue for you, you can't take property tax exemptions that you might be entitled to if you're not on title. And you can't sell the home if you're not on title. So you're presented with a lot of barriers if you are not on title to the home that you think you rightfully own. And then for the next generation, if your heirs don't have title adequately passed to them, they're going to have a lot of issues. So if you don't plan ahead for your home, your heirs will have to go to probate court upon your passing. Now, you might be wondering, what is probate court? You might have heard about probate court, and you probably heard that it's not super fun. So probate is the process through which the court supervises the distribution of certain assets of a decedent. So that would be the person who has passed away. And what happens in probate court? A court would choose someone who oversees the paying of a decedent's debts and distributes the decedent's assets to whoever should inherit. So, children, spouses, and people like that. And then the person who would help oversee this process would be an administrator. So if you pass away without a will, a court is going to appoint an administrator. If you pass away with a will, it's likely that you would have identified your executor. And that would be whoever would oversee the managing of paying your debts and distributing your assets. And one of the reasons that probate is something that people often try to avoid is because it's very expensive and very time consuming. And this is because the administrator or executor often has to post a bond. And usually this bond has to be, kind of like an insurance policy that has to be about 1.5 to 2 times the amount of that person's estate. So you can imagine, if you passed away with a certain amount in your bank account, a home with a certain value, that would mean the bond policy would have to be larger and larger. And in Cook County, a lot of those bond companies aren't issuing bonds to people that don't have an attorney. So when is probate necessary? So probate would be necessary if a decedent had assets that are worth more than 100,000. So, more than 100,000 in savings, large sums of money or assets that would total 100,000 or more. And I'll, break down what would be included in that $100,000 threshold. And also probate would be necessary if a decedent owns real property, so owns a home that needs a transfer of title. So if you don't do a TODI, your home is going to be calculated into that $100,000 threshold, and your home would need a transfer of title through probate if you don't designate beneficiaries during your lifetime. Probate might also be necessary if there is a dispute among family members, if there are, lots of unpaid or unknown debts, or if anyone is alleging that there was undue influence or anything, that the judge would have to sort out. What are alternatives to probate? Sorry, that is my doorbell. Alternatives to probate would be a small estate affidavit. And so a decedent who owns real property with named beneficiaries. So if you own a home and you do a transfer on death instrument, that means your home has a beneficiary. And you can do a small estate affidavit for all your additional assets. So if not including your home, your assets are worth less than 100,000. So, the things in your bank account or your items, the assessed value is less than 100,000. Your family members can just fill out a small estate affidavit and they can avoid probate. So what assets are included in that $100,000 limit? Like I said, for the small estate affidavit, that would be anything without a beneficiary. So checking and savings accounts that are in your name only, if those don't exceed $100,000, then your family can do a small estate affidavit. Oftentimes vehicles too, if they don't have a named beneficiary, then those would likely, the value of your vehicle would then be calculated into that limit. And then what assets are excluded from the $100,000 limit? That's anything with a beneficiary. So ideally, if you do a TODI, your home would have a beneficiary. So it's not going to be calculated into that $100,000 limit. Also, something that we recommend is making your bank accounts pay on death accounts. That would be naming a beneficiary for your bank account. So you could go to Wintrust Bank, maybe where you have your checking or savings account, and say, upon my passing, I want to name someone as a beneficiary and make my account a pay on death. You can also name beneficiaries for your vehicle. I believe there are certain forms that you can do that. Also life insurance policies. I'm sure if you have a life insurance policy, you know that you have a named beneficiary. And then other IRA type accounts, a lot of those have named beneficiaries. So those are all excluded from the $100,000 limit because you've already determined this is who I want to have this asset of mine. The $100,000 limit, that's just going to be all your other assets that no one really knows what you want to happen with this, and they are going to need to be divvied. And then also other things that would be excluded from a $100,000 limit would be anything that's owned jointly, as joint tenants with a right of survivorship. So if you own a vehicle or a home in joint tenancy with someone, then upon your passing, the person who you own it with would then become the full owner. So people often ask, I have a will, doesn't that help avoid probate? And the short answer is no, not necessarily. So, having a will on its own is not enough to fully avoid probate, but it would make a probate process a lot easier since courts would be able to determine who gets what, because you've written it out in a document and signed it stating this is who I want to have this. But, if you pass away without a will, then Illinois law is going to decide who gets what. If you do not have a will, the state, gets my property, right? And the answer to that one is no. If you pass away without a will, Illinois law is going to decide who gets what. And so only if no kin can be found does your land or home go to the county. So they would search for any relative you might have before they would give your assets to the state of Illinois. And I also want to point this out too, this line, if you pass away without a will, Illinois law decides who gets what. So, if you have a home and you want to give it to someone who might not be a traditional heir by law, so say you want to give your home to your cousin, you want to give your home to your nephew. I had, a client recently who had a very amicable divorce and wanted to make sure that if she passed away, her home went to her ex-husband, who would then watch after their kids. And if she would have passed away without a TODI, a judge was not going to give her home to her ex-husband. That's for sure. And so by, designating who you want to have your assets before you pass away, you are avoiding the law determining who would get your assets. So now I want to talk specifically about options to remove your home from the probate process. I've already touched on TODIs, and I'm going to do a deep dive into those next, but I do want to talk about some other options that might be out there. So first is the quitclaim deed, and some of you might have already done this, or you might have heard of this. I have had, a client or two say, someone told me that I should just be putting my daughter, on my title today as a joint owner through a quitclaim deed. And you can do this, but I am going to talk to you about the pros and cons of doing this. So a quitclaim deed, if you're not familiar with it, would be, a deed for your home that you would draft, from yourself to yourself and your daughter or whoever, as joint tenants. I'm just going to use the example as you and a daughter. And that would be putting your daughter on title to your home while you're still living. And I'm sure you can start to think about what some of the cons might be with that one. Next, we have the transfer on death instrument, and I will go deep in depth with that. And then last, we have a trust. CDEL does not draft trusts, so I won't be doing a deep dive into trust. If you are interested in a trust, please consult a private attorney if you're interested. I do want to make a few notes about a trust though before I move forward, since people are often interested in them. If you do a trust, the trust would own your home if you place your home in trust. There would be fees to create and maintain the trust. You're going to have to likely consult an attorney to do that. You would need the trustee's permission if you changed your mind or wanted to do anything different with your home. It can be expensive. I don't have the exact cost since I don't draft them, which we often see is that's the biggest drawback, is the expense of trusts and maintaining them. Sometimes there are annual fees or monthly fees. And then you need your lender, your mortgage company's permission to put your home in trust, most likely. So now we're going to talk about the two big options which you might be considering if you're not looking into a trust. So the quitclaim deed, this would be putting someone else on title to your home while you're still living. So if you do a quitclaim deed to you and your daughter, for example, who owns your home, now you and someone else, now you and your daughter own your home together. And if you want your daughter to own your home, you can do that. But it is more expensive to do a quitclaim deed. So there is the $98 recording fee, which would be at a minimum. Then there are additional municipal fees, which could add up. You're going to have to show proof that you paid your water bill. Oftentimes we recommend, seeking an attorney to do this so that you do it correctly, because you want to make sure if you're, drafting this document, you want to make sure it's done correctly. So it can be a little bit more costly, not as costly as a trust, most likely, but it can have other costs that could come up. So when is title transferred when you do a quitclaim deed? Immediately. So the second you record that document stating that you're quitclaim deeding your interest in a home from yourself to you and your daughter, the title has been transferred. Now you and your daughter own the home. What happens if you change your mind? This is a big one. If you change your mind and you want to sell your home, you want to give your home to someone else, for example, you're going to need your now joint owner's permission. So you're going to need your daughter's permission to do that, because now they have a 50% interest, or however big of an interest you've designated in your home. Does it avoid probate? It could avoid probate if you designate on the quitclaim deed that you want to be joint tenants with a right of survivorship. So that is possible. But if you don't designate that, then you would be tenants in common with your daughter, and your portion would have to go through probate. So it doesn't always avoid probate. Protection against creditors. This is a big reason that a lot of our clients choose to not do a quitclaim deed. And this is because if a joint owner, such as your daughter, for example, has debts, they got a car with a huge loan, if something happens to the car, it gets totaled, and they still owe money to the car loan company. A creditor can actually record liens against your property. So you and your daughter own it together. Your daughter has creditors coming after her. The creditors can put liens against your property. which can be scary. The expense, we've already touched on that. And then also, do I need my lender's permission? Yes. If you are quit claiming your interest in a home to someone else, you would need to get your lender's permission. So next we have the transfer on death instrument, which is what we highly recommend. So who owns your home? You and only you throughout your lifetime. You're the person that owns your home. The fees to record the TODI, it's only $50. So it's very affordable to record a transfer on death instrument. When is title transferred? I'm sure you can assume when it might transfer based on the name, but it's transfer on death. So title is not transferred until after you pass away. And what happens if you change your mind during your lifetime? You would simply record a new TODI or revoke it. Does it avoid probate? Yes, so it does avoid probate because it's making your home a non-probate asset by naming a beneficiary. And then protection against creditors. So, if your beneficiary has debts, so you already know, your daughter or your beneficiary has a lot of debts. Their debts will not impact your home during your lifetime. If after you pass away, they still might have creditors coming after them, it would be up to them, if they want to disclaim their interest in the home, because, that is when their name would be put on title. So no impact on your home, for liens and stuff of your beneficiaries during your lifetime. And then you need your lender's permission. No, you do not need your lender's permission. So the transfer on death instrument, what is it exactly? I've been saying TODI, I've been saying transfer on death instrument, but what exactly is it? So a TODI is just a really short form that's recorded with the Cook County Clerk's Office Recordings Division. It's a one-time fee to record, which is about $50, and it must be recorded before a homeowner passes away in order to be. And a TODI names beneficiaries or one beneficiary or multiple beneficiaries to receive your home after you pass away. As I've mentioned previously, it avoids probate. And then what happens if you change your mind? You just record a new one or you revoke it, as long as you have the mental capacity to do so. So who can do a TODI? This is a big one that I really like to focus on. The homeowner and the homeowner only is the only person who can do a TODI. So you can't do a TODI for someone else. Even if you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, you want to help your grandmother, you want to help your mom, you think, Mom, you really need a TODI. The homeowner is the one that needs to direct the drafting of the TODI. And even if you're power of attorney over your parent, you can't draft a TODI for them. You can't sign someone up for legal services. So the homeowner must want a TODI and have the mental capacity to do a TODI. So other estate planning documents that I just want to let you know that you should consider as well, that CDEL does draft, are, for your healthcare, powers of attorney for healthcare, including living will declarations, for your finances and your property during your lifetime, appointing a power of attorney for property, so someone who would help you with your finances, and then for your assets upon your death, you might be considering a last will and testament. So that is kind of everything that I have in terms of, your home and how to transfer your home through a TODI. Now I'm going to talk about a few other important topics that I think all homeowners should be aware of. And that is, one, protecting your home from fraud. So I'm sure you're all hyper aware that fraud is everywhere. I'm sure you have people calling you every day, trying to sell you things or, talk you into things that sound fishy. And unfortunately, a big type of fraud that we've been seeing recently is property fraud, and especially for homeowners with properties that don't have mortgages. So the Cook County Clerk's Office, they created a property fraud unit, and you can sign up for alerts via phone or email. And I think they're going to put the link to this in the chat. But essentially, you would sign up to get an alert, and you would get a phone call or an email anytime any document is recorded against your property. So if someone tried to do a TODI that you weren't aware of, if someone tried to record a lien or a mortgage that you weren't aware of, you would get an alert. Next, I wanted to talk about property taxes. I'm sure everyone's favorite subject, but I want to talk about some opportunities for saving on your property taxes. So hopefully all of you, if you are homeowners and if you are living and residing in your home as your primary residence, you should be taking the homeowner's exemption. Then next, if you are 65 years or older, you should be taking the senior exemption. Next, there's also the senior freeze exemption, and that does have an income threshold. I believe right now it's at about $65,000 for the year. And I'm sure, that number differs for married individuals, but all of these exemptions are ways to reduce your property tax bill. So if you think you qualify for any of these, you definitely need to be looking into that. If you're a person with a permanent disability, you want to be taking the persons with disabilities exemption. And then there also are exemptions specifically for veterans and disabled veterans. You might be thinking now, well, shoot, I don't think I've been taking these exemptions. And if you haven't been taking these exemptions, you can fill out what are called certificates of error. And so to redeem your missing exemptions, you can do that for about the past 5 years is I think the limit that they have right now. You can do that online, and that would be through the Cook County Assessor's website. Some other opportunities for savings, which some of you might already be aware of, but in terms of your utilities, if you are a senior, there is a senior citizen sewer exemption, which would require just a quick application. Then there is the garbage fee discount, and that one actually automatically should apply to you if you're getting the senior freeze exemption. So another reason to make sure you're getting your property tax exemptions. And then there's also the LIHEAP program, and that would be the low income home energy assistance program, which some of you might already be a part of. But if you're not, you should look into how that might be able to lower your utility costs. Something that my supervising attorney wanted me to point out that a lot of homeowners actually aren't aware of is the City of Chicago Home Repair Program. And this would be for low-income homeowners who are needing roof or porch improvements. And I'm sure plenty of us, could use a roof or porch improvement. And these grants, you have to go through like an application and lottery process. And I don't believe it's open yet. When I was just looking at the website, it didn't appear to be open yet. My guess is that it will open in the summer of 2023. But that's something that a lot of people don't realize that happens every year. So if you have any questions about that, I have the phone number here on the screen, which is 312-744-3653. And I believe they're going to be putting that in the chat as well. So if you're thinking you're in need of a roof or porch improvement, and you might qualify for a grant, let's look into this. So as I stated at the beginning, there is no one size fits all solution. Many of you are dealing with, family matters that are deeply personal or are living in homes that you're not sure if you have title to. So, a TODI might be a good fit for most people, but maybe not for you. And so you should always talk to an attorney to figure out which option is best for you in your unique situation. So, even if you were, listening to this presentation today and think, well, shoot, I don't know if I do have title to my home, or I'm in a home that was owned by someone who's now passed away, or I might have this issue, I might have code violations or foreclosure. Please still reach out because, even if we can't draft a TODI for you, we can hopefully point you in the right direction of services that you are in. And we will do our best to see if we're able to assist. So I'm sure you all are wondering, how can I get these free legal services? And so in order to apply for the free legal services that CDEL would be providing on site at Austin Coming Together, you can follow the link that should be coming in the chat. I also put a QR code. Hopefully that works. This is my first time doing a QR code. So try that one out. But in order to apply for free legal services, you're going to need to fill out that sign-up sheet. And we are going to be doing on-site transfer on death instrument drafting on Friday, March 10th. So if you're interested in that and you think, yes, I need a TODI, sign me up, I think I qualify, fill out the sign-in sheet. If you think you might have a different legal issue, you're not sure if you'd be able to attend March 10th, still fill out the sign-up sheet because I'd love to get connected with all of you and discuss any potential matters that you might have. If you have any really specific questions for me, feel free to reach out to my direct line. I have that here on the screen, and that is 312-600-6400. And my email is just cwright@cdellaw.org. So CWRIGHT@CDEL, and if you're calling, just leave me a voicemail and be sure to mention that you attended Hub 101. And it would be great for you to give me a call if you have a very specific question, because we're going to be doing a Q&A next. But the Q&A is not going to be time, for very specific questions. I'm going to try to be answering, more broad questions that are going to be applicable to the entire class. All right, so that is all I have in terms of my presentation. We can now get into the Q&A. I'm sure there are lots of questions that you might have, and I'm excited to answer those.
Thank you so much, Chandler. That was fabulous. You did a wonderful job. And we've got lots of questions.
Awesome.
So first, I just wanted to start off with two quick questions that are right at the top. One is, how can we get a copy of this PowerPoint? And the other is, will there be a recording of this event? So I will let you touch on the first one.
Yes. So in terms of a copy of the PowerPoint, I can see if I can pass that along to Janelle to pass along. But you can always, reach out to me if you have someone else that you think might need to see this PowerPoint. You can reach out to me directly. But I do know in terms of just a recording of this presentation, that is going to be made.
Yes, so there will be a recording for anybody who is looking forward to one. It will be accessible here on our Facebook platform, so you can always go back to our videos and view it there. We will also have a recording accessible on Austin Coming Together's YouTube page as well. And then that recording will also be sent over to Center for Disability and Elder Law, and you can reach out to them for that recording as well. And I'm sure they will be posting it out. So yes, there will be recordings of this that people can access. And then again, as Chandler mentioned, if you would like the PowerPoints, she and I can connect. And if you have registered for this event, I've already got your email and can send it to you that way. If you didn't register, feel free to reach out to Janelle Martin at the Austin Community Hub. So jmartin@austincomingtogether.org, and I can get that PowerPoint for you, and we'll have that added in the chat too. But to get started on questions, let's see.
Hey, Chandler, I got one question for you. Are there funds that must be available to participate in these programs, or are these free community resources?
Great question. So if you are eligible for CDEL services, so if you are over the age of 60 or have a permanent disability and are low or moderate income, our services are always going to be free of charge. So any of the drafting that we do, the drafting of the TODI, the executing and notarizing of your TODI, that's all going to be free of charge. And so all the services we'd be providing on March 10th are free of charge. The only thing that we would have clients pay for would be those recording fees. So that $50 to record with the clerk's office of Cook County, you would have to pay those recording fees. We're unable to cover those. And some of you might be thinking, I might not be eligible for CDEL services. I still want you to reach out because, if you're not over the age of 60 and you don't have a permanent disability, but you might be low or moderate income, we can definitely refer you to probably a partner organization that you might qualify for, such as Legal Aid Chicago, or other organizations that offer free legal services.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
I have a quick question about the March 10th date that you just mentioned, and I know you mentioned it at the end of your presentation as well. But so a live session where people are going to take the opportunity to like you're gonna walk through everyone on the TODIs and yes, I keep forgetting the HPP, yes. Those, so property preservation planning. Can you tell us a little bit more about that in general? And then I'm also happy to jump in. So just for anyone who's interested, this will be something hosted at Austin Coming Together. But I'll let Chandler again kind of give some more details about it.
Yes, so the Hub 102 is going to be on March 10th. And that is going to be the day that clients will actually get that on-site legal service. So for everyone that's viewing today that's interested in legal services, you're going to fill out that sign-up sheet. And then I'm going to be reaching out to you to do a quick pre-screen. I'm going to, figure out if you qualify for our services. I'm going to see, what is your legal issue? Are you on title to your property? And I'll be doing some researching. And then for those that qualify for our services, and it looks like a TODI is a good thing for them to be doing, we'll be drafting TODIs on March 10th. So we are going to be having quite a few pro bono attorneys that are going to be present on March 10th. Depending on how many clients we're going to have, we'll have, attorneys present. So for those that come on March 10th, you'll be drafting the transfer on death instrument with an attorney. So before that March 10th date, you'd want to probably figure out who do you want your beneficiary to be, or beneficiaries for your home. And then, when you would come on March 10th, you draft the TODI with an attorney. We will have notaries present, and we will also have witnesses present so that everything will be done correctly, and the documents will be ready to record.
Perfect. And then you mentioned pro bono lawyers. Can you tell us a little bit more about them, where they're coming from, and what that might look like?
Yes, so I don't know for certain who the March 10th attorneys will be quite yet. We're kind of waiting to see how much interest we're having and how many eligible clients we'll have. But we have, incredible relationships with pro bono attorneys all over Chicago. So McDonald's corporate office, we have, pro bono attorneys from there that often do work with us. We also have pro bono attorneys from, large corporate law firms as well. And then just other size law firms. So they are going to be attorneys who practice in all different areas. And we will obviously be there as well. So you will have, full-time CDEL staff attorneys there to make sure that the pro bono attorneys are drafting these documents correctly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Great. Let's keep it going. While we're on the topic of TODIs, how do beneficiaries of a property get their name on a title if a TODI is recorded and the homeowner has died?
Yes. So this question is really kind of about, what happens? I'm a homeowner. What happens after I die? If I do a TODI, how do my beneficiaries actually get the home? And it's actually quite easy and something that we prepare in advance. So when a homeowner that has done a TODI passes away, what needs to be done is there is a document that needs to be recorded. So similar to recording the TODI before your death, after your death, there is an affidavit. There's a long title. It's a notice of death and acceptance of TODI affidavit, very specific. And it's really just an affidavit stating this person has died. I am a beneficiary along with my siblings, for example. Here is a copy of, our mom's death certificate, and you record that with the county. CDEL actually prepares that for you in advance. So anyone that would be getting a TODI on March 10th, we're also going to be preparing that affidavit for you so that you can give that to your beneficiaries and you can give that to your heirs to let them know this is the paper that, when I pass away, attach my death certificate and the home will be transferred to you. If that paper gets lost along the way, it's not a big deal. You can always draft a new one, but we do that as a courtesy for our
Nice, thank you.
Great. And is there a cost that goes along with that affidavit as well, or is it just the original TODI cost?
So with the affidavit, I believe the cost, the clerk's office often is changing their recording fees. And I know in this next round, they have, made some changes, but it would likely be around that $50 to $98 range to record that affidavit. So not too much, but there likely would be that cost associated with it because the clerk's office, they have to have a fee to record every document.
I have one more question. Is it advantageous for people to have a TODI and a will, or either or like what is your opinion on that?
Yes, that is something that I didn't touch on that I'm really glad that you brought up. So a will is great, and we also draft wills for clients. A will is going to, touch on a lot of your personal assets. So when I am drafting a will for a client, a lot of times they have, family items that they want to make sure, my jewelry is going to my niece, or, my coat is going to this person. The things in my home, I want to go to these people. So a lot of your personal items we'd recommend, having a will to explain you have very sentimental family items that you want to go to specific people. Those are things that should be in a will. Same with, your bank accounts. If you don't make your bank accounts pay on death accounts, you'd want to identify, who your beneficiaries are in a will. But those who have a will, you can mention your home in a will. You can state that I want my home to go to my son and my daughter equally. But what we do is we recommend, both a TODI and a will. But if you have a home, at minimum, you should be doing the TODI. If you do a TODI and you don't do a will, you're going to be okay. Because your family can do that small estate affidavit. But, you do want to do that TODI to name your beneficiary so that a probate judge, doesn't have to determine who should get your home. So the TODI is really going to be supreme. If you record a TODI, that's who is going to get your home. And so when we have people that do both a TODI and a will, oftentimes we put a line in there at the top that says, I own this property, on Main Street, and I intend to record a TODI. If for whatever reason, though, that TODI isn't recorded, this is who I want to get my home. So you can have both. We encourage both. But I would say at minimum, if you have a home, you should be doing the TODI.
Thank you. Thank you. Great information.
It looks like we have a question regarding going back to the qualifications for your services, specifically on the income piece. They want to know what the amount for moderate income might look like. So what's the max?
Yeah, so we can be a little bit flexible. We understand that our homeowners tend to have higher incomes than others, but I think typically we're looking at about 200% area median income. So I don't have that number off the top of my head, since again, that number changes. But if you might be borderline, still, fill out that sign-in sheet. We are able to sometimes help individuals who are a little bit above what our eligibility standards might be, which is great. But, for those that are high above our eligibility standards, we would refer out to other organizations. So I know I don't have a concrete answer, but I do believe that 200% area median income is kind of the threshold that a lot of organizations use.
Okay. And for anybody who's watching and is unfamiliar with possibly the 200 area median income, that is something you can Google. If you go to Google and just type in 200% area median income, or just area median income in general, a chart will pop up and it'll provide you based off, because it's based off of the number of people who live in your home and your income. So based off those percentages, they built a chart out. So if you have questions about whether or not you qualify, you can do that. Or as always, Chandler, I'm assuming they can just reach out to you as well.
Yeah, so I would say, even if you're not sure if you'd qualify, still fill out the sign-in sheet. We can chat, and depending on how many people are living in your home and the incomes of all the people in your home, we would determine, if you're a little bit above that threshold, we can still likely offer services.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Well, I think we only have like 2 more questions. So if anybody has anything, please feel free to toss it in the chat now. We've got time. So please feel free to toss it if you got any questions about anything. Let's see. One thing I did have a question about in terms of property preservation planning. If you have a family member who is currently, like, the senior is still alive, family's good and functioning, and you have a family member who is working with them, who is not listed as owning the home, but actively is participating, working with the senior regularly, And I recognize you have to have them listed, but is it okay if the senior takes this person with them to meetings with you to get them listed on those documents that they need? Or do you need to wait until after they are listed to participate in meetings?
Yeah, that's a good question and something that comes up a lot. And a lot of times, people that are helping our clients, people that are helping seniors, like 9 times out of 10, they have the most positive intent and they just really want to help that person. Especially with people who might have a language barrier. We see, daughter is always there with mom to make sure that, mom's not getting taken advantage of. When it comes to drafting legal documents, there is attorney-client privilege. So we would want to be talking to that senior directly. But, we may just need to have a time where we talk with the senior one-on-one to make sure, okay, is this what you really want? Do you have the capacity, making sure this person doesn't have extreme forms of dementia, or, wouldn't be able to, appreciate what's going on. So we would likely have to talk to the senior one-on-one for a portion of time to make sure there's no undue influence, no issues of, coercion going on. Because unfortunately that, 1% of people, we have seen an issue where there was someone, a family member who was helping, their aunt, and fraudulently was just trying to get the home in there. So we always first and foremost want to be protecting our clients. So long story short, we're going to want to talk with the senior one-on-one for a bit. It's okay if a family member comes, but they do need to know, out of respect for our clients and our work, we would likely have to separate them for just a portion of the time, and then they can do that.
Okay. Thank you so much for clarifying that for us.
Yeah, a good question, because a lot of times, we've had adult children say like, no, I don't want you to be with my mom by herself, and I always have to affirm, your mom is going to be fine. You can just sit right there, you can see us, or just right outside of the room. Promise your mom is in good hands. Just have to make sure that your mom is doing what she actually wants to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you again.
Great. I believe this is the last question. Someone wants to know, how do they access the sign-in sheet?
Yes, the sign-up sheet should be a link that's in the chat. And I believe Janelle might also send that in an email after. So if you didn't catch it in the chat, they maybe are putting it in again. If you didn't catch it, then you should get it in an email if you registered in advance. Hopefully you wrote down my phone number. If for some reason you cannot figure out the sign-in sheet, please just give me a call and let me know that you attended Hub 101, and I'll make sure that I have you.
Yes. And again, so that sign-in sheet or the sign-in link, as Chandler mentioned, should be in the chat. Our wonderful marketing development team is helping us out with that, and they should toss it. They have it in there for you. They have also gone ahead and put contact information for the Austin Community Hub in there as well. So if for some reason you are not able to find the sign-up link and you didn't pre-register for this event, please feel free to shoot over an email to me, Janelle Martin, with the Austin Community Hub. Again, my email is in the chat, but it is jmartin@austincomingtogether.org, and we can send that over to you as well. But I think that is the rest of our questions. Again, we have enough time, so if anybody quickly wants to toss in last minute question, happy to. Put Chandler, before we wrap up and while we wait for that, is there anything you would like to let us know about CDEL and this upcoming opportunity together? Yeah,
I think just one thing about the sign-up sheet before I forget, please try to fill it out today if you can, but at the latest, try to fill it out by Friday. Because like I said, there's going to be that week or so that I'm going to be calling people that are interested, doing an intake, and I need to do some research, on your property, because we do what's called a full homeownership checkup for all of our clients as well, which I didn't talk about in my presentation. And through that process, for those that are going to be drafting TODIs with us, I make sure, are you paying your property taxes? Are you getting your exemptions that I talked about? Do you have any code violations? What's kind of your full homeownership picture? I'm going to be doing all of that research in advance of March 10th. So it's important that you sign up early so that I have adequate time to do that work. And then I forget what else I was going to say. I think that that's it. But yeah, just wanted to really reiterate, really try and sign up as early as possible so that we can do our research.
Thank you. And again, that's that link. If you can't get it in the chat, we will get it to you. We promise. Call one of us and we will make sure you get it. But it looks like we haven't gotten any other questions. So first want to do a huge thank you so much. You were fabulous, Chandler.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And if anyone has, any other legal questions that you might have, even if it's not related to housing, if it was one of those other practice areas that CDEL has, I think I have a spot on there at the sign-in sheet that if you have another legal matter, I can also facilitate, an intake for that legal matter and pass it on to another team member. So please reach out. I look forward to, working with as many of you as possible. And I'm just really excited to be serving this community.
We are happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so thank you everyone for joining us today for our Hub 101, for our February Hub 101. You're all fabulous. Our next Hub 101 is coming up and we will be presenting with Build again. We have the opportunity to talk with Build on Tuesday, March 7th from 12:30 to 1:45. And it's going to be all about their new building and all the wonderful things that they've got attached to it. So please join us to learn about that and how you can get your youth connected to it. But otherwise, again, thank you all so much. And I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you.